Welcome to Inspire Campfire, a podcast where ordinary people tell their stories of extraordinary adventure. These are campfire stories meant to inspire the rest of us to light the fire within, get outside, follow our dreams, and return to tell our own stories. Ready? Let's strike the match.
Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Scott Wurzbacher, and today we're going to talk about how the wilderness offers unique opportunity for a fresh start and a new identity. In the beauty of nature, we can be whatever or whomever we want to be without judgment. And one fun way this manifests for hikers is through the trail name. Today's guest understands deeply the human connection that's fostered through a trail name. Rae Brunault is here with us, and she's the author of a new book called Trail Name Tales, a curation of stories about the people she met while through hiking the Appalachian Trail. Rae, known on the trail as Hippea, is a professional photographer from Western Massachusetts who set out to through hike the Appalachian Trail as a way of taking on her own healing journey after tragedy. In setting out to heal herself, she has touched and inspired so many others in the process. This is a heartwarming story full of both fun and heart. Rae, welcome to the campfire.
Thanks so much for taking interest in this and having me.
Oh my gosh, it's so awesome. We were just chatting right before I hit the record button. I got this book and I'd sit down on the couch to just start perusing it. And the next thing to know, I'm finishing it. I read the whole thing and I couldn't put it down. It was so good. Rae, I'm so excited to have this conversation with you. You wrote this book called Trail Name Tales. What is it?
Yeah, so in 2022, I thru hiked the Appalachian Trail, and I was a bit nervous to sort of walk away from my photography career at home. So I wanted to do something along the trail that kept me connected to photography in some way. I wasn't really planning for this to become a book, but I started an Instagram page. I started taking photos and videos of hikers, and I just asked them, what's your trail name and how did you get it? And then it just sort of manifested into a book afterwards. But yeah, it's about trail names. So when you're long distance hiking, you usually develop a trail name somehow, some way. It comes to you. It acquires usually in a funny way, but it could also be a sentimental story behind it. But yeah, you hike and you sort of become who you are on trail with a new name and identity.
I love it. You get to be whoever you want to be. But I'm curious though, like with trail names, how does a person get a trail name? Do they get to make their own trail name? Do they have to get it from somebody else?
Yeah, a lot of hikers and most hikers will say that you have to get it from another hiker. You can't give it to yourself. But a lot of people do give it to themselves. I think that, the one hiker, they can't wait to get you that embarrassing trail name, like immediately, like something you did while setting up camp or something you're saying or eating or something silly. And like people can't wait to just give you the most absurd trail name. And a lot of the time people don't like that name or want to accept it. So some people will hike miles and miles, and if they aren't getting a name given to them that they like, they may end up giving themselves a name because sometimes it's rough to like find a name that resonates with you and feels right.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like once you get on the trail, it's like, oh man, I got to hurry up and like find a cool trail name before something embarrassing happens and something worse comes along.
Yeah, I had a couple trail names before my official trail name that stuck, and I really was not into them at all. So
So it's okay. It's okay to start over if you don't like your trail name.
totally.
Yeah. Oh man, there's such a story to all of this, and I want to hear about all of it. So Hippea, that's your trail name. How did you get your trail name?
So before the trail, I was photographing a vegan festival, an event, and they
Okay.
were giving out little sample packs of Hippeas, which are a vegan cheese puff snack. They're called Hippeas. And before I left the event, they had all these Hippeas left over, and they were like, take some with you on the trail. So I took a bunch of these Hippeas sample packs and I put them in all of my packages that I was mailing myself along the trail. So I was just Hippeas like from Georgia to Maine.
I love it. And it's Hippie is Hippea is the way
Yeah,
that it's
yeah.
it's kind of a fun little play.
Meet me and they're like, "Oh, another hippie," and then I always have to spell it out.
Yeah, it's your own version of hippie. It's so cool. So how do you go about, like, if you don't like your trail name, how do you get rid of it?
You just don't accept it. I mean, sometimes you can't get rid of it and it will end up sticking whether you like it or not, but, I think you just have to keep waiting till you find a name that you like so that you can
Yeah.
hang on tight to that one.
Yeah. I think one of the cool things about the idea of a trail name is that it gives a person the ability to kind of like reinvent who they are. And so many people like go to the trail and get outside and try to connect with nature to sort of just disconnect with the busy life. And sometimes people, you know, go out into the wild in order to sort of reinvent themselves. And so this idea of a trail name, like, is just sort of a fun way to accomplish that. And I'm just curious if there was like a deeper connection for you in like choosing this project in particular.
Oh, yeah. Well, for one, I haven't found another project of people consistently sharing their trail name
Yeah.
stories, which I thought was interesting because it's the first thing that you talk about and interact with people on trail. When you're meeting people, you're like, "Oh, what's your trail name? How did you get it?"
Yeah.
It's literally like the first thing you say to each other most of the time. So it just came to me and I just started working on it and it just flowed and everyone loved it. And but yeah, the whole like embracing a new identity for me was definitely like a deeper meaning. It was getting out there and escaping everything at home for a while and sort of letting go of my past, even for 6 months while I'm out there, just to detach and become someone else and have a new name. And it was just a really like heavy sense of freedom to
Yeah.
be different, be something different.
And even though like sometimes people come to the trail like with heavy circumstances, like you just talked about, I mean, it's such a lighthearted way to like show up and be whoever you want to be. And you don't have to bring any of your past with you. You could just show up and like just, have fun with this like whole fresh new identity. And it's funny that we're talking this week, like here where I live in North Carolina and Charlotte, it's the first week of school and, kids are going back to school. And sometimes when you go from like, elementary school to middle school or middle school to high school, like, and you're meeting all these new people and you get to sort of reinvent yourself every time. And the trail name, like, kind of helps you do that. I think it's just so cool.
Yeah, it is definitely like puts that lightheartedness on like heavy things. There's a lot of people out on the trail who are escaping heavy things at home. So it's nice to be able to just introduce yourself as something silly or just some sentimental name that you're carrying with you as a way to just be free from everything.
Yeah. So I'd love to talk about just like a couple of your favorite names that you've come across in your book or even just in your, adventures on the trail. Like maybe what's one of your favorite funny trail names?
So I would have to say F word is
Nice.
a really funny one.
Like it's
My
it's literally F word.
F word.
Yeah.
Yeah. He hiked in 2018 and he was saying the F word a lot while he was taking these like steep inclines and someone was like, "You say the F word a lot," and like that just became his name. But a lot of trail names are really silly, like Cowbell, because there's a trowel hanging off his pack and making noises that sounds like a cowbell. Like,
Yeah.
again, like it's people can't wait to give you that embarrassing, silly name. So there's a lot of them out there. And then some people will accept that silly name. So
Yeah, and I think I mean, is it fair to say that, like, probably the overwhelming majority of trail names tend to have kind of a funny, fun spin to them.
Yeah, and a lot of people are out there, like, backpacking for the first time ever, so they're, like, struggling and dealing with figuring everything out there, living in the woods, essentially, so
And I guess that's another concept because, when you're on the trail especially when you're doing a through hike, I mean, it gets hard out there, right? So this is like a way to just kind of like naturally create some laughter and some fun in what might otherwise be like some days miserable, right?
exactly. Yeah, I mean, there were a lot of times where it felt very miserable, hiking up a steep mountain, and you're like, "Wow, this really sucks. This
Yeah.
is awful." But at the same time, you're like, "This is actually really badass." So at the same
Yeah.
time, it's awesome.
Well, like if I just pick up the book right here and I just start flipping pages, I mean, everybody's smiling, everybody looks happy. I mean, it's just such a light-hearted, fun book. Highly recommend that people pick it up just to bring a smile to your face. It's, as I said, I was able to get through it pretty quickly. So it's really fun. How about a sentimental trail name? You mentioned that some people have sentimental.
Yeah, I would say, what comes to mind is my friend Newfound. So Newfound before the trail, it was years before she decided she was going to hike the AT, but
Yeah.
she was traveling through the Smoky Mountains with her previous partner, and she came out to Newfound Gap. And so she's looking at this sign, Newfound Gap, and she's having this moment of like knowing that she would hike the trail someday. She was like, this is so cool. I could come to this gap. I could walk here from Georgia and I can continue walking to Maine right from this spot. And years later, her marriage ended up ending.
Mm.
And what came to mind for her was Newfound Gap. And she just decided now's the time I'm going to hike the AT, and she named herself Newfound. And what's cool about the trail names too is sometimes they start with one meaning, but eventually, like from Georgia to Maine, you eventually, like, your name could transform and have so many different meanings through those 6 months. And Newfound became not only that gap that put the idea of the trail in her mind, but it just became her newfound life. And
Mm,
she
I
ended
love
up
that.
meeting someone on the trail, and now they're married and they own a
Wow.
hospital. So, yeah, that's one
That's so
sentimental.
cool. I remember reading that story in the book. So I guess I'm curious, like we talked about, like how a trail name tends to be an easy way to like connect with somebody when you first meet them. And you talk about like, how did you get that story? Like, but with that sort of lightheartedness and just the fun of it, like, do you find that sort of a door into like starting a deeper conversation with people?
Yeah, totally. I will say I'm like more of an introverted person, if but I also can be very extroverted depending if I'm working usually, like doing photography at an event or
Yeah.
something, like I become extroverted, but if I didn't start that project, I probably would have avoided a lot of people on the trail. Like I had my friend with me and her and I, we would get to camp, and sometimes camp would have a lot of people if we were in the bubble, and we would sort of camp away. We didn't really care to be social, but eventually, you're hiking and you're running into the same people over and over. You eventually start to talk to each other, but also like the project just helped me be more social, which was cool. Because I would just start talking to people and ask them if they wanted to participate in this project, and then I would form relationships with all these people, so it kept me to be more outgoing and make connections. But yeah, definitely a good conversation starter.
Hey everyone, it's Scott here. This podcast is a passion project for me because I absolutely love adventure. And it's thanks to the effort of my residential real estate team here in Charlotte, North Carolina, that many of you know as the W Realty Group, that this podcast gets funded. This awesome group of people have unmatched levels of competence and caring for our clients. If you know of anyone looking to buy or sell a home, our team serves the Charlotte, North Carolina market, but we can also help you find an agent anywhere throughout the US or Canada through our highly connected network. When you support our real estate business, you are also supporting this podcast. Thanks for listening, And thanks for your referrals. When you started the trail, like this was not really, was this on your radar kind of like when you started?
It was, but very casually. I didn't think that I would make a book. That kind of came way later. But the project grew more than I thought that it was going to. I was just sort of doing it for fun for myself to like stay creative and meet people. And then afterwards, it just sort of blew up and hikers really got into it. And it's pretty popular now. So
Yeah. So tell us your Instagram name and what you used when you were on the trail to kind of talk about it.
yeah, it's Trail Name Tales, but originally I started posting photos of people. Also, I just used my iPhone because I did not want to carry any extra heavy weight of a camera. So I used my phone and I started to share these photos and stories, and it wasn't really blowing up yet. That wasn't until later. But I did also take videos of everybody telling their story. And so, like, probably, I don't know, more into the northern section of the trail, I started to make reels with these videos, and they just started blowing up. Like, one reel hit 1 million views, and
That's
then all of a sudden I had 16,000 followers. And so I think the hikers are what kept me going. And I'm still interviewing people still. So I go to trail and do trail magic or go hang out at a hostel or go for a hike on the trail. And I'm currently like still interviewing people or at trail days. So people are super into it.
Yeah, it's so fun. And like when you and I spoke the first time, like you were sharing with me that like as you started going through the trail after like a couple of months, like people started to recognize you and they knew who you were. Like, what's that like to go from just like this person starting this hike to like all of a sudden becoming known for this project that you're doing?
Yeah, it was cool. It was cool to kind of see all my hard work paying off, or people just enjoying it. That's what kept me going. But yeah, at first, like it wasn't really taking off. I didn't think it would really become of much, but it was actually like not until after my hike when I started to share all these videos that it really blew up. And like recently, I went and hung out at a hostel in Tennessee. Like hikers were coming through, and I just said, "Does anyone want to share their trail name story for this project?" And one girl was like, "Wait, Trail Name Tales? Like you're the person behind Trail Name Tales? Oh my God, you're a celebrity! Like I want to share. Let me share my story." And she's like going around like, "Guys, Trail Name Tales is here."
It's so fun. It's so fun. I love it. It's such a cool project. It's just, again, it's light, but it's got such a depth to it. And I think that's what's so cool about it is that you can bring this lighthearted nature into such a deep thing. And, I think for you, there's like a story behind how all of this even started in the first place. Like, can you share a little bit about your story and how you ended up on the Appalachian Trail in the first place?
Yeah. So I've always been an avid hiker. Growing up, I live near like a local mountain range. They're not very big mountains, but I have always just hiked out here for daily exercise, and so I've just always been into it. And then during COVID, my friend and I, who is someone I work with doing photography, we were doing a lot of wedding photography together. But then when COVID happened, we sort of lost a lot of event work. And we all of a sudden had all of this free weekend time. So her and I just started hiking like 4K mountains. And then eventually we hiked all of the 4,000 footers, the 48 in the White Mountains.
Cool.
So that like that escalated really quickly. Like, so her and I, we had the weekend time. We also were both going through a breakup at the same time. So it was like we were just like on the same wavelength and we just hiking. And once we finished all the White Mountains, it was just kind of like a joke. And the AT goes through where we were hiking in the Whites. So like naturally we are like, oh, let's just hike the AT now. And we had gotten laid off for like 3 months during COVID. But then we just decided eventually 2 years later to leave our full-time teaching jobs and go on the trail. And we we did it. So yeah, I've always been someone that has liked to travel and sort of look for the next trip and adventure. But yeah, a lot of like tragedy and trauma, of course, were another factor in me taking interest in a 6-month journey to get away. So yeah, a lot of like family issues. My brother has been struggling with opiate addiction for the last 20 years. So
Mm.
that's been like, I'm dealing with that currently, even like today. So healing is not linear. But then my significant other of over 10 years passed away pretty tragically from alcohol and drug use. And then, so while I was sort of planning for this Appalachian Trail hike, I found this scholarship online, and the scholarship was a family who lost their son to an accidental overdose. And he had hiked in 2018. He hiked over 700 miles of the trail, and he passed away in 2019. And his family started this financial scholarship to support people who might be seeking healing on a thru hike. So I found this scholarship on Facebook. I was like overjoyed. It sort of like it just made sense. The stars were aligning. I was like, this is another factor of like, I need to go on the trail. And I applied for it, and I got a partial scholarship, which was awesome. And they've become huge supporters in my journey. And the scholarship is called One More Day on the Appalachian Trail. I was one of the first recipients for it, and they're doing it every year now. So there's a lot of factors that led me to the trail for sure.
And I really do appreciate you sharing it. I mean, it's a lot of hardship, but I think so many people turn to nature and the wilderness and Appalachian Trail for healing.
Mhm.
What is it like specifically for you that like drew you to that for the purpose of healing? Like, what happens to you when you're on the trail?
Yeah. Well, being on the trail, you are literally like you're waking up, you're breaking down camp, you are making food, packing your pack, like going to find water to filter. Like it's all these very simple things in survival to do. And then you're walking and you're moving your body and you're exercising and you're releasing stress in that way sort of. But they're like even my physical body was holding on to a lot of the emotional baggage that I was experiencing for many years, even to the point where I had chronic physical pain in one of my shoulders. Like for probably 5 to 6 years or so, I really struggled with that. So for the first month on trail, I was actually a bit worried that I wasn't going to be able to complete the trail because I was in so much pain, especially after adding a 30-pound pack.
Right.
I really felt pain in my neck and this whole chronic pain area. But after about a month of just sucking up and being in pain, it went away. And I actually haven't had any pain there since. So just movement is medicine, breathing in fresh air every day. Again, like totally detaching from everything. You're not at work, you're not with family. You are literally just in the woods, like heading to your next camp spot and looking for water and thinking about what you're gonna eat or, you know.
Yeah, it's such a cool analogy. I'm just thinking about like everything you just shared in the last couple of minutes. I mean, what you've been going through with your family and with your significant other. I mean, it sounds really hard. And you use the word simple when you described what happens when you get out on the trail.
Yeah, yeah. It's a good, like, distraction too, like, even it's simple, you're distracted because there are things that you need to navigate and figure out each day, and, you're just, like, looking at a map, how many miles till the next camp or water source or town, and what do I need for the next 3 days of resupply, and, oh, like, you're in constant nice views and, noticing things in nature and meeting new people. And it's just
Yeah.
all very, exciting when you go into town or stay at a hostel. You're meeting interesting people who are doing the same thing you're doing. It's a complete escape from everything.
Yeah, I want for some reason, like, the word control is coming to me, and I'm wondering if, like, there's, like, a in that simplicity, if there's a feeling, like, a greater feeling of control, like, yes, it's hard to, like, survive every day, right? But, like, I can find water, I can find food, I can walk from today's camp to the camp that I'm gonna stay at tonight. Like, I'm just curious if there's, like, if that feeling of control, like, helps with the healing. Does that make sense?
Feeling of control of, yeah, like taking control of your path in
Yeah,
life.
just like, I can do this, like, this I can do this simple, like, this is a simple thing. I just have to wake up, make my food, find water, move to the next place, like, I can do this.
Yeah, absolutely. You are choosing to go on this 6-month thing outside of society, leave your job, kinda do something that a lot of people, aren't willing to figure out to do.
Yeah, so I'm curious, like, with the healing specifically, as you kind of reflect on how long did it take you to do the trail?
6 months.
So in that 6 months, like, as you kind of reflect on that, like, what were some of the things, like, about that experience that really contributed to your healing?
I would say, like, the added community to my life now, is just another, like, group of supportive people in all of our lives together, like, connecting with the family of the scholarship, like, I still talk to them often, we see each other at trail days, and so just having that extra, like, added support, the project, the book, like, it's all, positive things that I'm adding into my life, and it's there forever, and now I, like, know that if I ever need the trail, it's there. But, yeah, I think it's hard to say. Again, like, healing's not linear, because then after the trail, you do get a lot of post-trail depression, and then you're like, when can I go on my next through hike?"
Yeah. Yeah,
Uh,
so I wanna touch on just like just go a little bit deeper because what I'm hearing you say, like, for you, the interaction and the relationship building, like, especially through this book, like, it was kind of like the experiences you had with other people that really helped you. And I'm just curious, like, what is different about those experiences with people out in nature, out on the trail, as opposed to the people in, regular life, getting in their cars, driving around, going to work?
yeah. Well, we're all out there for some reason. I mean, some people are out there just because it's something they always wanted to do, and they're just, like, happy-go-lucky, like,
Yeah.
nothing bad has ever happened to them. They're just like, "I wanna hike the trail." But then you connect with people who might have been escaping an abusive past or grief or loss or other kinds of obstacles in their life, and to be able to connect with people going through similar situations as you is obviously helpful. And yeah, I mean, just traveling and nature, it's all just good for the soul.
Do you feel like people are more, like, willing to share, more vulnerable, like, out there in that environment than they are in just daily walking around life?
Yeah, totally. Because it's like it's another world sort of, and, like, again, with the whole freedom and having a trail name, like, you're just sort of you're more relaxed.
Mhm.
You're detached from home. You're you're just in another completely different environment, in another state far away. You're in
Yeah.
in the woods. Also, you connect with each other on a deeper level because, like, you're helping each other, like, even if you're not friends on the trail or you're just passing by or you're camping near one another, like, if the water source is an extra mile away from camp, some people might go and get you your water for you, or you're just sort of helping each other out, or, "Oh, I ran out of food, here's some food." You're bonding in a way that is like, we're out here away from society, bonding, helping each other. It's a different different kind of way of life.
I mean, it's like a utopia, really. Like, why can't we live like that in regular society?
Yeah, totally. It'd be great.
So I guess I'm curious too, like about the book, because I think what's so cool about your story is, entering the trail to do this awesome thing, to heal yourself, to help yourself, to give yourself that gift. But in the process, like you gave so many other people a gift, like your energy on the trail and this project that you decided to take on has turned into this like incredibly inspirational story and gift to other people. Like, how did that experience like further contribute to your own growth?
Yeah, totally. Like everyone that participated in this seems to just be so eager and excited to share their story and put themselves out there. And yeah, everyone kind of they're always sending me like little notes of affirmation and like just thanking me for putting this all together and to be able to share their story too. I think that that's what's kept me going too is everyone's enthusiasm towards sharing their story. And yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's an inspiration, and I'm not surprised that people wanna be a part of it. You've created this thing, I'm just not surprised that people wanna be a part of this awesome thing that you've created. Part of how you got to the trail was through this scholarship fund called One More Day on the Appalachian Trail, and this just sounds like such an awesome organization. I feel like, I owe it to the listeners to kind of understand a little bit more about that organization. Do you mind kinda sharing a little bit more about them?
Yeah. So Nate Loftus, also known as El Chapo on the trail, he hiked in 2018. He hiked over 750 miles into Virginia and he got off trail. He passed away from an accidental overdose, and his mom and dad and sister and also his trail friends kind of came together and they formed this organization. And they just want to help people who are struggling, and whether that's people who are in substance abuse recovery or they have again like escaped an abusive past or they're grieving or going through loss or any obstacles or tough challenges in life that they need to escape and they don't have the financial ability to do so. So they collect donations. Anyone can donate through their website, and each year, so they started this in 2022. So each year they've been giving a full scholarship, which would completely cover all the costs for an entire through hike, and then some people will get a partial scholarship, or anything that they can give, or like a gift card to REI, or which is something that I received. So yeah, if they're going to continue each year. So the first year it was like 5 people that got some sort of assistance, and then there's, I think, like 3 or 4 people the next time. There's a blind woman hiking with a guide dog right now. She's been sort of on and off the trail, but she hopes to become the first blind woman to hike the AT.
Wow.
So that's pretty cool. But yeah, applications are open right now for 2025. They'll be closed in October, but you can apply on the website now for
That's amazing. So good timing. And people can go to their website and they can actually see some testimonials.
Yeah,
There's a video of you on there.
yes. Yes.
Um, can you, and you shared with me, who are a couple of the other recipients? What were kind of some of their stories?
So there's the blind woman, there are people in recovery from addiction.
Mhm.
That was the first recipient. He got a full scholarship. He's in recovery for a while from substance abuse, and he went on to hike other trails too, which is awesome. There was someone who lost a friend to suicide, and he thru hiked all the way. He got a partial scholarship. There was a woman who escaped an abusive family community, and she hiked the whole trail as well. There's me, who went through the grief and the loss and struggling with family members and addiction. But yeah, there's all sorts of variety going on of who can receive the
Yeah,
scholarships.
and as you said, so actually applications are currently open, so people can go check that out. Who who can apply?
Anyone can apply if you are going through anything that is like, pretty tragic and
Yeah.
you need some assistance and an escape. Again, some people don't have backpacking experience, but they just show interest in wanting to do it. But yeah, you'll apply and then you'll have an interview and then they decide sort of after those interviews.
It's such a cool concept. I mean, obviously, this family went through a lot, and they're using that to turn it into a good thing. And you're here with us right now as evidence of the good that they're doing. I think it's so cool. I'm curious, like for you and your journey, now that you've been through this hike, you've written this book, especially as it relates to substance abuse, which has been big in your life. Is there anything that you want to share with listeners that might be going through something like that, whether they're going through the substance abuse themselves or, have a family member that is? I'm just curious, like now that you've kind of been through this whole journey, if you have anything you want to share to people that might be listening.
Well, it's been a long road for
Yeah.
me, and again, like, everything comes in waves, and, I think if you just work at things one day at a time funny enough, like, people in recovery live their life one day at a time is
Yeah.
kind of the motto.
Yeah.
Um, but I also find that true for people struggling, maybe struggling with them or anything really. It's just kind of one day at a time. And me being an artist, like my creative outlet has been my savior, my personal savior, and the woods and hiking. So all those things kind of came together. The hiking and my creative outlet, it sort of just manifested itself. But I just kept utilizing those things, and it sort of led me to here. I think, like, I mean, not everyone feels that they have a creative outlet, but it's definitely been something that has helped me sort of like that. It's my constant.
Well, I mean, there's a few things that you've said today that I like. To me, it's almost like this thread, like when we first talked about being on the trail and being in nature. Again, you first thing you used was the word simple. It's simple being out. It might not, it's hard, but it's simple, and, recovery one day at a time, like trail name, it's simple, I mean, these are just
Simplicity, yeah.
simplicity. Yeah, exactly. So I really love that. You are an artist. What else have you got going on right now? Do you want to tell us about any other projects that you're working on?
Yeah, well, while we're on the whole addiction thing, I did start a project years ago called Dear Addict, and it's about people writing letters to an addict in their life, and whether that addict has passed away and you're still like struggling with the aftermath of that, or your person is in recovery and you're happy for them, you're proud of them, you want to express your gratitude towards their recovery. So it's just letters to addicts essentially. But actually, someone just published a book called Dear Addict. Funny enough, her husband wrote this book. He was an addict. Unfortunately, he passed away, but she still continued to publish his book. And my significant other that passed away actually and her husband have the same name, which is interesting. We connected online.
Wow.
So I might change the name or I might keep it. I'm not sure, but I need more people to participate in that project. I would love to publish it someday. But a lot of people don't feel comfortable sharing that heaviness in their life. But I've made the project to where it can be anonymous. So I'm hoping more people participate now. So that's one other project I have going, but I've been working on it for like 10 years.
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, if people want to support you or take part in that, how do they do that?
Well, my website is carlyrayphoto.com, so they can find me through there. I also have an Instagram page for that project called Dear Addict.
Carly Ray Photo and Dear Addict. Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I guess on a broader scope, if people want to get a copy of Trail Name Tales or find out more about trail names and your photography business, like what's the best way for people to interact with you?
Trail Name Tales is on Instagram. Also, the book is available on Amazon.
Okay.
I do sell the book directly through me as well. That would just be like sending me an email or messaging me on Instagram even. I'm hoping to get the book into some outdoor gear stores soon. And also this year I had a booth at Appalachian Trail Days Festival selling the book, and I hope to do that again. But right now it's conveniently on Amazon. So.
Nice. So maybe if somebody decides to go hike the Appalachian Trail at some point along the way, maybe they'll bump into you.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm still going out there. Actually, tomorrow I'm going to go hang out at a hostel in New Hampshire and interview people. And I'm also going to run over to the Long Trail in Vermont and snag some interviews over there too.
Yeah.
And hopefully I'll hike the PCT or CDT out west and create a west version of Trail Name.
Love it. I love it. That's going to be awesome. Then we'll have to get you back to hear about that one as well.
Yeah.
So speaking of which, I mean, your story is just getting started. You've had tragedy and it's been painful, and you've taken that and you've turned it into something good. And now you're inspiring other people. I mean, Carly Ray, at some point, Hollywood is going to pick up on your story and they're going to want to make a movie about you. And I want to know, when they do, who's going to be the Hollywood actress that's going to play you in your movie?
Oh, that's so funny. Well, my celebrity lookalike is Scarlett Johansson, so maybe.
Yeah. All right. I'm okay. I like that one. That
Like,
worked.
even from the time I was 16 years old, like I have people telling me I look like her for so much of my life. I get it all the time.
I can see it. I can see it. I think that's awesome. Okay. So Scarlett Johansson, what's the movie going to be called?
Oh, how about Survival Mode?
Survival Mode, starring Scarlett Johansson. I mean,
We're
I'm
all in
feeling that.
survival mode, right?
I'm feeling it. I think that's awesome. I love it. Well, I really, really appreciate you spending the time. I think that you bring joy to the Appalachian Trail and to hikers, and I love what you're doing. And I hope you'll just keep going and keep cranking out the fun, creative work. And for those listening, I hope you've been inspired today as much as I have. I hope Carly Ray's story has encouraged you to listen to the voice inside that calls you to adventure, because we want to hear your story next. If you have a story to tell or just need a nudge to create one, please send me an email. We'd also appreciate it if you'd help us spread the word by leaving a review and sharing or tagging Inspire Campfire in your social media. And until next time, I want to encourage you to get outside. Thanks for listening. Carly Ray, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you.